Most people believe the world is divided into opposites: light and darkness, good and evil, hot and cold. They think in black and white, in constant conflict. But Hermetic teachings tell us something deeper. The law of polarity reveals that opposites are not enemies. They are two extremes of the same essence. Heat and cold are both temperature, love and hate, both intense emotion. It's not about division, it's about degrees. Polarity isn't conflict, it's connection. The ancient Hermetic masters taught that by understanding polarity, you unlock hidden control over your reality. You begin to see that nothing is purely this or that. Everything is in motion, oscillating, shifting. And once you stop labeling things as good or bad, you step out of emotional slavery. You see reality as fluid, not fixed. This is the hidden power behind polarity, not choosing sides, but rising above the scale. The world didn't tell you this, but those who knew kept it in symbols and silence. The law of polarity doesn't just describe the world, it gives you a tool to shape it. The Hermetic masters didn't teach these truths for theory. They taught them so you could work with reality instead of fighting it. If you're stuck in sadness, the path isn't to reject it. It's to shift toward joy, 1 degree at a time. Because polarity is a spectrum, not a wall. You don't need to become light. You only need to move toward it. That's transmutation. It's the inner alchemy the ancients whispered about. Everything contains its opposite. Even your pain holds peace if you look deep enough. That's the secret. If you're feeling fear, courage is already within reach. But to access it, you must accept both ends exist in you. Denying one side gives it control. Embracing both gives you choice. True spiritual mastery isn't about perfection. It's about integration. And polarity is the map. But most people, they never read it. Once you see polarity, you can't unsee it. It's in everything. In relationships, emotions, even thoughts. Love isn't the absence of hate. It's a point on the same line. Confidence doesn't destroy fear. It balances it. The more you study this, the more you realize reality is crafted through contrast. And here's the twist. Contrast is not your enemy. It's your teacher. Without sadness, would you understand joy? Without stillness, could you feel movement? The Hermetic mind doesn't resist opposites. It uses them. This is where mental transmutation begins, when you stop reacting and start choosing. If you're angry, you can move toward peace, not by force, but by awareness. If you're anxious, you can shift toward calm, not instantly, but consciously. You start noticing the shift points, the exact moment when you cross from one pole to the other. And that awareness, that's freedom. Not because you control everything, but because you finally understand how things work. This is ancient science, not superstition. If you're ready to see beyond the surface, subscribe and tap the bell. The real journey starts here. Polarity is not just a law out there in the universe. It's working inside your mind every moment. Every judgment you make, every belief you hold, is shaped by contrast. You think you're choosing between truth and lie, but you're actually navigating between degrees of awareness. That's why Hermetic teachings warn, don't be fooled by surface appearances. What looks like light can still carry darkness, and what seems painful might be your doorway to expansion. The wise don't just observe polarity, they use it to rise above it. Imagine emotion as a pendulum. The harder you swing toward one extreme, the harder you'll be pulled back to the other. That's emotional polarity in action. But if you observe instead of react, you find the still point, the center, and that's where real power lives. The law doesn't want you to resist your darkness. It asks you to know it, because only then can you hold your own light without fear. Only then can you be whole. This is why true wisdom isn't about escaping pain. It's about recognizing where you are on the scale and learning how to shift. Most people live like passengers in their own minds, thinking their emotions just happen. But the Hermetic path teaches, nothing just happens. Everything is governed by laws, and once you learn them, you can move through reality like a conscious creator. You're no longer trapped in the swing of the pendulum. You're guiding it through observation, through inner stillness, through the choice to respond instead of react. And polarity, once mastered, becomes your inner compass. You feel anger, but you know where it leads. You feel joy, and you know how to anchor it. You recognize every emotion as a message from one end of the spectrum to the other. You stop fearing sadness. You stop chasing constant highs. You begin living in rhythm with universal law. And that's not philosophy. That's the first step to spiritual sovereignty. The ancients knew this, and they left clues. Polarity was never meant to divide you. It was meant to wake you up, to help you see that every extreme you've lived through was pulling you toward balance, that your deepest pain wasn't punishment, it was a map. Every shadow you faced was pointing to light you hadn't yet claimed. The Hermetic masters didn't teach this law for the elite. They taught it for the seeker, for the one who's tired of being ruled by unconscious patterns, for the one who wants to remember that power isn't about control, it's about understanding. When you begin to live through polarity, not react to it, life stops being chaotic. You start to see the design, the ebb and flow, the rise and fall, and in that rhythm, you find yourself. Not as someone who avoids the dark or clings to the light, but someone who moves between both with awareness. That's what the ancient ones called mastery. And it begins the moment you realize nothing is separate. Everything is one. If nothing is truly separate, then is the battle between light and dark just a story we've been told to keep us asleep?